This is a really interesting topic, and it's a topic that, search is kind of a specialty area, a specialty interest of mine. I didn't know as much about search and social as I needed to, and in preparing for this presentation, I was able to do some research and find out some very interesting things about where that's going. So we're going to start by let's move ahead to slide 2, please. It says link love. Move ahead to just a review of how search engines work, and there are two major components of a search engine, of how Google, and by the way, I'm going to use Google here as a generic term for search engines because it does have 75% of the market. Bing works basically the same way as Google. All search engines work basically the same way. There are two components to search results. One is how you describe yourself, the so-called on-site data such as your meta tags, your meta descriptions, the headlines you use, keywords you use, and you should have a very clear set of keywords you're working with, and you should make sure that all of those different elements of your site are properly formatted to correctly identify what you're about, what your company is all about. So you can control about half of the search equation, but the other half of the search equation you can't control, and that is links that come in from other sources. So what Google did, the reason Google was so revolutionary, was because of its PageRank algorithm, which was based upon the idea that good quality inbound links to a website using certain words would be considered in search results and would drive up in the rankings a site that had the right other sites pointing to it with the right terms. So inbound links are the secret sauce of modern search engines. They're also the one area that you have the least control over because you can't control who links to you. So the real issue that we're going to look at today is how can social be leveraged to improve your search visibility, both explicitly through inbound links and implicitly through traffic that may result in more inbound links. Let's move ahead to slide 3, Jacobo, please. This is an example of how this works. Now, if you search for human resource software, or at least if I search for human resources software, and we'll address later on why my search for it may be different than your search for it, the number one result that comes up is Tribe HR. Now, why does Tribe HR come up ahead of much larger companies? Because Tribe HR is a startup. Why does Tribe HR come up number one? Well, a few reasons. One is that they do a very good job of on-site SEO, or search engine optimization. They use the right keywords. They have all the tags filled out appropriately. So it's a very well search-optimized site. But really the more important factor here is the inbound links, the quality of the inbound links. And if you look at just a sampling of the links on the right, you'll see that there are many credible sources that link to Tribe HR. They include Huffington Post, Forbes, TechCrunch, SAP, Crunchbase, VentureBeat, HubSpot, Electronic Engineering Times, and the Toronto Globe and Mail. And most of these links relate to the fact that this is a fairly hot startup that's got some venture capital and is doing some innovative things in the HR market. So the quality of those links is very important in how Google calculates search engine rankings. A link from the Toronto Globe and Mail, from SAP, from GigaOM, from TechCrunch, those are all very good links to have because Google knows those sites to be credible. How does it know them to be credible? Because they have good links coming into them. So the more high-quality links you have coming to you, the more credible you are, and therefore the more link love or search engine juice you can provide when you link to other sites. And Google figures this all out algorithmically. And it's pretty good. Google does a great job of surprising us constantly with the quality of its search results. Let's move ahead to slide 4, which is about blogs, why blogs are link magnets. One of the things that we advise in the boot camps, and that we often, actually it's the number one topic of more in-depth training that we do with boot camp alumni, is about blogging. And the reason is really that blogs are link magnets. Now, if you remember those brands, those websites I just mentioned, 6 of those websites, Huffington Post, TechCrunch, GigOhm, Crunchbase, VentureBeat, and HubSpot, are blogs. They're basically built on blog platforms, but they are websites that have very large numbers of inbound links, very large audiences, are updated frequently, and so they have considerable credibility as far as search engines are concerned. Now, Google considers blogs to be high quality because they're created by people. Google favors content that's created by people over that which comes out of catalogs or is machine generated. Google assumes that that's high quality information. That's one reason that we recommend you consider having a blog on your website. It's the #1 most valuable form of social media for B2B companies because it's a great way to express long-form content and because it tends to attract links, and that's because other bloggers read the blog, they like what they see on the blog, and so they link to it, and so it generates a lot more traffic. Now, this is HubSpot figures. They've documented this for years, that sites with blogs get about, on average, about twice as many inbound links as sites that don't have blogs. So, links from a few well-regarded blogs can really be as good as a link from one major news source. And if you combine that together, if you get a hit in the Toronto Globe and Mail or in the Cleveland Plain Dealer or wherever, whatever credible news source there may be, that's almost guaranteed to shoot you to the first page of Google search results, assuming you're not in a huge field like cloud computing. So some of the factors that affect the credibility of a blog include the frequency of posts, longevity of the blog, the quality of the inbound links, and the keywords that the blog uses. For example, a blog that writes frequently about human resource software is more likely to be a credible source on that subject than one that writes about bicycling, for example. One of the reasons that Tribe HR does well in search is that several of the sites that link to it write a lot about human resource software. So Google keeps an eye on those sites. It's constantly crawling these sites, and it sees this is a site that repeatedly writes about human resource software. It must be a credible source on human resource software. Therefore, when that site links to Tribe HR using the words human resource software, Google goes, bingo, this is a match. This is an endorsement for Tribe HR as being a credible source of information about human resource software. So whereas if the bike primarily wrote about bicycling, for example, and just once mentioned human resource software, that would be a disconnect. It would be a little incongruous, and Google would flag that. So really, the overall content model of the website is also important. How do we know this for sure? Well, we don't. The fact is that Google's search algorithm changes all the time. Some people think that it changes hundreds of times a year. We certainly know that it undergoes at least one major revision every year, and constantly is taking into account new sources of information and changing its weighting criteria. So understand that what we're talking about here is kind of a black art, and there are lots of people out there who make their living doing search engine optimization, and they fight all the time with each other over issues like what's the role of social media, how does Google figure out the credibility of sites. There's lots and lots of debate in the SO community ongoing because nobody knows the secret. The Google search algorithm is about as well guarded a secret as the recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. So just a few people know how it works, and even if you did know how it works, it's going to change every few months anyway. So what we're talking about here is a little bit of a black art, but I think that there are some conclusions that we can draw based on what we've observed over time. If you move ahead to the next slide, please. This one is called, let's see, what do we have here? So it should say the heartbreak of no follow. That's what you should see on your screen right now.
That is correct.
Okay, now no follow is a code. It's a command in HTML that tells a search engine whether to follow a link or not. So one of the first things you might ask is, well, when we set up a social profile on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and we link to our company, isn't that a good link? Isn't that going to help our search performance? In fact, it doesn't, because all three of those sites I just mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, use what's called a no-follow links. And that means that a link to your website from your profile there will not be followed by a search engine. So that is which is interesting to know, you can't automatically shortcut the process and improve your search results by simply signing up for a social network. Interestingly, links from Google Plus are indexed by Google's search engine, and links from Pinterest are indexed by Google search engine. So you do actually get some search benefit from registering and creating profiles on those sites. Does that mean they will always be indexed or no-follow, that no-follow will not be enforced at those sites? That could change any time. In fact, Wikipedia for a long time was a very popular, considered to be a very desirable link. If you got a link from Wikipedia, it was like gold because Wikipedia was such a trusted source. The problem is that Wikipedia, people started trying to game that. They started posting content on Wikipedia that was promotional in nature, that was intended to game the Google system, and so Wikipedia shut down and made all of its links no-follow. And so all of a sudden, Wikipedia went from being one of the best links on the web to being of no value whatsoever. So these dynamics can change all the time. Move ahead to the next slide. This is a panda. A panda is the code name for the latest Google search algorithm. And it was introduced in actually late 2011. It's been overhauled a couple of times since then. And what Panda was considered kind of a milestone in search because it was Google really raised the stakes with Panda. It implemented all kinds of features that were intended to screen out content that was intended to fool search engines, so-called content farms, and refine the algorithm to look for high-quality, human-produced content. And when you look at where Google is headed, it's very clearly in that direction. Google constantly fights battles against people who are spamming it and trying to trick the search engine. And this is an ongoing and a long-term strategy for Google, is to deliver high-quality content, which is content that is created by people. And the search engine experts pretty much agree on one thing, and that is you can't beat Google in the long run. You might be able to get a leg up on it for a couple of months, but it will eventually come back and figure you out. The only way to win at search is to have high-quality links from high-quality content and to have good quality content on your site. So let's get to where search is going, and this is where it gets really interesting. I'm going to move ahead to slide number 7. The new face of search is social. In the early days of search, everybody got the same results. Today, nobody gets the same results. And if you have a Google account, and I believe I have a slide on that later, about 500 million people do, then Google is using the data that it draws from your search activity as well as your other profiles, the other applications that you use on Google, and it is customizing search results to your needs, to what it believes you want. So let's look at this page and see a couple of things that are going on here. You'll see that this is a search for C.C. Chapman, who's an author and a social media expert. A couple of things about this page that strike you immediately. One is that there's a big photo of C.C. Chapman on the right. Now, why is that there? Well, it's there because of something called the author tag, which is a fairly new innovation out of Google that attempts to align authors with their content and to really group content according to the author. Now, C.C. Chapman is a very search-savvy guy, and so he makes sure to tag his content so that Google can easily figure out that the stuff that he posts is from C.C. Chapman and can aggregate that together. And so a search on C.C. Chapman will turn up more of his content. But more importantly is look at the organic search results on the left. You'll see that there are little icons that look like little profile icons to the left of Home C.C. Chapman, to the left of C.C. Chapman on Twitter. What does that mean? Well, that means that I'm connected to that person. That means that on Google+, I have a connection in what are called circles on Google+. And this is an increasingly important part of the search equation, is that Google is actually digging into your social networks, into your contacts, and it's figuring out who you know and who you have a relationship with, and then it is elevating those results in search. This is why the Google search result is not general. It's not general anymore. We all get essentially custom search results. whenever we use Google, if you are signed on to your Google account, you will get a different search result than anybody else who is accessing Google on the same query terms. So search is actually becoming more refined. And the way this is affecting, social affects this is obvious. If you have social relationships, then those people are going to figure more prominently in your search results. So you also see, by the way, who people also search for, and that's on the right under CC's photo, and that is another relationship relationship that Google has inferred from who CC knows and who searches for CC. It knows that there are certain other people whom they are also likely to search for. So those people are going to wind up in the search results as well. All of this is important because the better you define your relationships to Google, the more you give it insight into who you are connected to as a person and as a company, the more it can infer about you and the more chances you have of showing up in search results for other people and other companies. It also underlines the importance of Google+, which we will get to in more detail. Google+ is Google's social network that is really often misperceived as a Facebook killer. It's not going to kill Facebook, and it's not intended to kill Facebook. Google+ is positioned as being an integrator of all of Google's different properties, and they are methodically moving toward making Google+ a hub. Now, Google+, the big advantage of Google+, and let's move ahead to slide 8, Google is, the point is it's an integration point, and we know that activity on Google+ figures prominently in the search results. In fact, and this is very important for any company that's dependent on search, you need to have a Google+ profile. There are big benefits to having a Google+ profile, not as necessarily as a user of Google+, because you can argue that it's a relatively lightly used social network, but because your presence there figures so prominently into search results. So you need to have a Google+ profile and a page for your business. It also needs to be an active page because the more you post to your company page on Google+, the more that content will be indexed in Google, and the more it will rise in search results. Now, this doesn't mean that the content has to live on Google+. It can live on a separate website, but a link from Google+ is considered a good link. It's an indexable link, and it figures into search results. I'm going to stop right now and just ask if any questions have come in. So I can't see the console.
We have no questions at this time on the console, Paul.
Okay, very good. Let's move along then. Slide number 9, called the Google+ bonus. Now let's look at a company that really knows how to use Google+, and HubSpot is as good as any company there is at search engine optimization. And what you see is when you search on HubSpot, you get the organic search results on the left, but on the right you get this Google+ profile. Now look at what's in this profile. You see the number of followers of HubSpot. You have a chance to follow HubSpot on Google+ from with a click of that button. You also see 2 downloads, two clickable download offers. You can actually download HubSpot content assets directly from the search results page. So you don't even have to get people to your website anymore to give them a call to action, to give them an action item. And this is why having a good Google+ profile is so important. When people search for your company, you can deliver something beyond the basic company information. You can actually deliver them a call to action right on the Google search result page. And you want to do that because you're removing one click from the process. You're making it faster and easier for people to connect with you and to get something from you, to create a persistent relationship with you. So look at HubSpot. If you want to see really how to search optimize your site, you can't do it better than HubSpot does. They do everything so well, and they are using Google+ very effectively to juice their Google search results. Move ahead to slide 10. It's called, you'll see a picture of a search engine page there, results page. And this is a search results page from my own Google account, and I searched on a very hot term, a term that a lot of people would like to own, search engine optimization. And what you see is the 4th result on this page is a link to Robin Sharf. Robin is a colleague of mine at Profitecture. So, and the reason it's linking to her is, see that little icon to the left of the search result headline? Because it knows that I'm connected to Robin through a Google Plus circle. So it takes a link that she posted on Google Plus and it moves that above the fold to the fourth item on my search page. So why is this important? Well, what this means is that search results increasingly reflect the content that's posted by your friends. And the more friends you have, the more followers you have, the more chances you have for your content to be served up to them. The point is not so much that the link is benefiting you on Google, but that Google is elevating content that people in your follower network or in your circles post for keywords that relate to that content. Simply more ways to get your content in front of people who, in this case, already know you. You're not going to get any benefit to people who have no relationship with you, but you will get benefit to people who have put you in a circle or who you have put in a circle, people who have some kind of relationship with you. So these are all reasons why Google Plus has to be taken seriously. Moving ahead to slide 11. How big is Google Plus? How many Google-enabled accounts are there? Well, according to Marketing Land, there are now about half as many Google accounts as there are Facebook accounts. Google does not release actual figures, but that number is growing rapidly. So, you know, Facebook may have a billion members, but Google's got 500 million. And these are, anyone who has a Google account automatically gets a Google Plus account, which means that Google Plus activity figures into their search rankings. So, you know, what I really got out of the research that I did for this webinar, and it was enlightening because I didn't know enough about Google Plus, is if you're a business, you have to be on Google Plus. If search engine optimization matters to you, you have to be on Google Plus, if for no other reason than the benefit that you get on search. Move ahead to the next slide. This is a look at circles, and if you're not familiar with Google Plus, this is essentially Google's version of Friends. And Friends, circles are groups that you can, groups of people that you can organize according to your relationship to them, whether it be their area of expertise, whether it be their relationship to you, whether it be something that you both have interest in common. And you can add anybody on Google Plus to any circle, and those people then get a chance to see your information more prominently. Google's extended circle means that you influence not only your followers, but their followers as well. So while Google Plus is still small compared to Facebook, it counts disproportionately in search results. When you post your content to Google Plus circles, there's a greater chance that people will see it. People who are in the circle will see it, and that they will also share it, which they can do by simply clicking a +1 button, or that they can do a more conventional share with a comment as they would on Facebook. Again, the more people who are in your circles, the more chances there are for them to see your content. And again, a circle is sort of similar to a friend on Facebook. It's an evolution of that concept to where the circle can be friends grouped by interest. Facebook now has a similar metaphor, but circles figure, the advantage of circles is they figure so prominently in search results. Moving ahead to slide 13. Google Ripples is a very interesting feature of Google Plus as well. If you are on Google Plus and you see a post and you want to know how much has that post been shared, you click the little down arrow next to the post, and one of the options it says will be view as a ripple. And when you look at the ripples, it will show you a diagram like this, which shows you the originator of the post and then all the people who shared the post and people who shared their share. So it's interesting to see how you can actually get a visual map of how far the information that you post travels. This, again, is a tool that I was unaware of until just a few days ago, but it is a very powerful way to track results. Now, move ahead to slide 14, Bing and Facebook sitting in a tree. Bing has not been standing alone. Bing has, of course, the major search rival to Google, has linked up with Facebook and is doing much the same thing that Google does, except they're doing it with Facebook search. So what you see when you search on Bing is you get Facebook results from your social graph on Bing, and also from other social networks that you may have in common. You can register multiple social networks with Bing, as you can with Google, by the way, in your profile, and it will search those networks and it will make relationships and elevate search results based upon the people that you know in your network. Now, Facebook is not entirely private, as many people would think. There's a whole public dimension to Facebook. You can have a public profile on Facebook. You can have a public feed in Facebook. So posts that you want to make visible to search engines, you simply make them public, and they'll be picked up by search engines. And you can also make them private, sent only to your friends, your family members, whatever groups you may have on Facebook. But a lot of companies, if you have a company page, you want to make sure that your posts are public. Any post that is not directed at an individual, you want to make sure your posts are public so that Bing can see them. And Google can see them as well, by the way, but Bing has a special link with Facebook that permits them to get preferred access to that information. Moving ahead to slide 15, the power of 245. So there are other good reasons to post content in social network for search results, and that's basically the more chances you create for people to view your content, the more chances they will link to it. So there's no magic formula for this, and this has nothing to do with how search engines index social networks. The idea is simply to spread awareness so that the likelihood of getting quality links increases. So there's a Facebook dynamic that I call the power of 245. The average Facebook user has 245 friends who each get notification of activity by people who are friends of theirs. Now, the prominence of that notification has many variables. So the fact that you post something to Facebook does not mean everyone in your friends network will see it. The people who are closest to you have a higher likelihood of seeing it. But the point is that if someone fans your page on Facebook, then you have the opportunity to get your content in front of them every time you post something to Facebook. And that means there's more opportunities for them to click through to it, to create a link, to create a tweet, to post something on their website, simply a matter of creating awareness. And the idea here is not so much the algorithm of search, but human behavior, getting your message in front of more people so there are more options for them to link. Any questions at this point?
No, we don't have any questions on the dashboard poll.
Okay. Next slide, slide 16. Do social mentions affect search rankings? This is the $64,000 question, and nobody knows except Google. Google has never given clear guidance on how social networks figure into its search rankings, but it's fairly clear that they're becoming more and more important. Now, the only data, most interesting data I've seen on this was done late last year by this company, Branded 3, and they track. They did an analysis of tweets, of activity on Twitter, and looked at the prominence of those links from Twitter in Google search results. They found some very interesting results. URLs see a significant Google boost when shared on Twitter, they found. The boost effect levels off at around 50 tweets, so that's about the highest, the number of tweets where you get the highest immediate benefit. And then it really doesn't change much until you get to 5,000 tweets. After 5,000 tweets, the rankings improve considerably, and once a URL gets over 7,500 tweets, it almost always ranks in the top 5 results. Now, us on this call should be so lucky as to get one of our links tweeted 7,500 times. It's not going to happen very much unless you're Justin Bieber. But this does prove, I think, this is very interesting information to demonstrate that mentions in social media affect search rankings. It's not proof. It could change tomorrow. But this analysis does indicate that Google is increasingly including data like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook mentions in rankings. And you see the chart along the bottom that a URL with 7,500 tweets, that's a very good asset to have. So what you would take away from this, for those of us mortals who are not going to get 7,500 tweets, what you take away is that getting your link shared on Twitter is a good thing. And having your employees do that, having your partners do it, anybody over whom you have influence, asking them to share your content on Twitter, it certainly can't hurt, and there's evidence that it helps. On to slide 17. There is also a benefit in when you do get a spike of activity in what could be called the afterglow. You might have seen the Dollar Shave Club viral video, which went ballistic on YouTube about a year ago. So it had a huge, millions and millions of views, big internet viral phenomenon, and like most internet viral phenomenons, it lasted about a week. And then it died down, and something else came along. But look at the long-term effect. What you see is before that video went viral, there was essentially no search activity on Dollar Shave Club. After it went viral, there was a higher level, and not an insignificantly higher level of search activity from essentially 0 to a relative number of about 15, which means that there was an afterglow of that viral hit. So if you get content that goes popular on social networks, it creates search demand. And people start searching for that content, and they keep searching for that content. So while the initial hype may be over, there still is some residual benefit that can last quite a long time. And Dollar Shave Club continues to see the benefit of that one spike in activity in continued search terms. So bottom line, moving on to slide 18, this is a slide that I actually stole from SlideShare, and with credit to SEO Moz, but I think it kind of sums up what you have to do. You create share-worthy content, you share it socially, you earn a social rankings boost, of which we're not sure how much it is, but there definitely is some sort of benefit you get from that. You get natural links from content's visibility and value, which creates links from web sites as opposed to social networks. Website links have more persistence, more long-term value than links from Twitter, for example. That can earn you more followers, which amplifies your reach, gives you more opportunities to amplify the message, more ways for people who are searching to see your stuff, and that's the key to victory. So slide 19, I am going to this really just reinforces the comments from the earlier slides, which is that it's all about life cycle, and you should look at content as having several stages of existence. There is the initial buzz that you can get from using Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn to get immediate reaction. But there's research that proves that that activity on Facebook, that our activity around content on Facebook lasts about a week. That's about the full life cycle of activity on Facebook, and 90% of it happens within 24 hours. So you'll get a very short-term boost from Facebook. Interestingly, activity on blogs happens most during the first 6 months. So you have a much longer period of visibility on in a blog than you do on Facebook or on Twitter. The same concept works in YouTube. The life cycle of content on YouTube is much longer than it is on Facebook or Twitter, and that's because of the search effect, because it takes a while for that content to get into the search indices and to generate traffic from search engines. So you should look at content as being, there'll be an initial boost that you can get from your Facebook and Twitter traffic, but also you want to make sure that that content is a home on a place like a blog or YouTube where it will have long-term value that comes from search. And that's part of the life cycle which maps to the funnel. You know, you want content at all different parts of the funnel and you want to be promoting it in different channels to get visibility for it in different time frames. With that, I'm going to move ahead to the FAQ part of our session, and just before I do that, ask if there are any questions.
No, Paul, we have no questions. Go ahead.
So one thing that we usually do is, as we wrap up these sessions, is we look at 5 questions that often come into the boot camps. And my colleague, Mr. Paul Krapman, is on the line. Are you there, Paul?
Sure am.
Do you care to weigh in on any of these, or do you prefer to be a lurker today?
I'll be a lurker.
All right.
I'll do John Madden to your pet Summerall or whatever.
Okay. All right, let's move ahead to slide 21. What if I post something and get a negative reaction? We hear this all the time, and it's probably the number 1 or 2 reason that companies do not go into social media. They're afraid that there's going to be a negative reaction. And the answer to this is quite long, and I'm going to put in a shameless plug here for my new book, Attack of the Customers, which deals with this issue of negativity in some length. But I'll try to summarize what to do when you get a negative reaction. First of all, understand there's nothing wrong with negative reactions. People get negative reactions all the time. Not everybody is satisfied with what you say or with your company's performance. Apple has 20% of detractors. 20% of Apple customers are angry at Apple at any given point, and that's one of the most well-loved companies in the world. If you're an airline, that number is a whole lot higher. You have to be thick-skinned about that, and you have to be aware that people tend to be bolder online. They will say things online that they won't say to you face-to-face, and very often those people can be quickly turned around. So first of all, if you get a negative reaction, what do? Well, you embrace it, because there's a book called A Complaint is a Gift. It's an excellent book about this that basically makes the case that angry customers are some of your most treasured assets because they haven't left. They haven't left you yet. The customers who are the greatest loss, the customers you regret losing the most, are those who just go away and don't say anything. People who are negative, who ask you, who object to something you say, or who complain about your company, are asking for permission to continue being your customer. And in a remarkable number of cases, percentage of cases, those people can be turned around. In fact, Richard Binhammer, who is a prop architecture coach who worked for Dell for many years, says that company has done very specific research on this and determined that over 40% of people who complain on social networks can be turned into raving fans with hand-holding. If they get a response, if they get a careful, measured, and truly caring response. And we're not talking about turned around. We're not talking about satisfied. We're talking about turned into raving fans. 90% of detractors, of people who complain, can be satisfied simply by responding to them and listening to what they have to say and just showing that you care. Not even necessarily doing anything to solve their problem, but just showing that you care about it. So view negative reactions as being a gift, because these are the people who, they want to engage with you, they want to talk to you, and most of the time when you respond to them, they'll back right down. And they're surprised to get a response from you, they don't expect a response, and they become courteous, even grateful once they get a response to you. Now, if you get a negative reaction from someone who is just off the wall, crazy, angry, and won't take, and is completely unreasonable, I recommend that you take that discussion offline as quickly as possible. You try to satisfy them, telephone, email, whatever, get it out of the public view, and if you do satisfy them, encourage them to go back up in the forum where they posted the negative comment and post an update. Don't tell them what to say, but post an update. Most of the time, they'll come back and they'll say, "Hey, got a great response. This company is really a great company to do business with." Most of the overwhelming majority of the time, that's what happens. So don't fear negativity. Negativity is an opportunity to get better. It's an opportunity to take a customer who might otherwise be lost and keep them. And do pick up also, if you're really interested in this, A Complaint is a Gift by Klaus Moeller and Janelle Barlow. It's an excellent book about how to deal with negativity. Move ahead to number 2. How much time do I need?
Can I just throw two items in?
Absolutely.
Okay. One is, you'll also get negative responses from folks that have absolutely nothing to do with your customer base. You will find trolls in your feeds and stuff like that who are just looking to pick a fight. And you'll find out pretty quick when you respond to them that nothing you say is going to satisfy them. Nothing you say is they're just looking to pick a fight. Those are the folks you do ignore. So you don't end up creating a long thread of back and forth bickering between what I would call a troll and the company. And then the other thing is that, as Paul was pointing out, if you solve a problem, if you identify a problem, usually, the complaint doesn't always come specific enough in order to identify a problem to be solved. So, the first thing that you want to do is kind of probe that and find out, what the problem is. And then once you can solve their problem, Paul's right, they become loyalists is all get out. A problem solved is what makes the turn. So anyway, those are the two items that I wanted to throw in.
Absolutely. And you see there's just copious statistical evidence on this. There is copious case study evidence that people who are negative, customers who are negative, can be 90% of them can be turned positive by simply paying some attention to them. And what Paul said about the trolls is right. Some people just like to stir up trouble. Those are the people you don't pay attention to. How much time do I need to spend each week or each day? Move ahead the slide after that, slide 23, called 15 minutes a day. That's my answer. 15 minutes a day, if you use your time productively, is all that you need. Remember, the key to success in social media is not volume, it is persistence. It is being there every day. It is continuing to add content every day. And there's lots of data on this as well, including your search results are profoundly affected by frequency. Updating your blog twice a week versus once a week has about a 50% benefit in search engine results, for example. So visit a group. What can you do in 15 minutes a day? Well, know your keywords. Have a group certain groups that you're members of on LinkedIn, which would be the preferred social network for most of the people on this call. Connect with active members. Look for new people to connect with, and request one connection a day. Share a relevant link, an article that you've read in the forums, and share it on Twitter. Share your Twitter updates using a hashtag that matters to you. Ask for and give one recommendation on LinkedIn. Answer 2 questions on LinkedIn, and ask 2 questions a week on LinkedIn. And I'm serious about that metric. LinkedIn, you should be answering or contributing answers about 3 times as often as you initiate new discussions, at least, if not more than that, more like 5 or 7 times. And that's because the good community behavior starts with answering questions and then with asking them. Also, use your downtime. A lot of us have smartphones now. When you're standing in that supermarket checkout aisle or you're waiting in line at the fast food place, you can use your smartphone now to send a retweet or to send a tweet. Items that you read on your tablet or your smartphone are easily shareable now. So take advantage of that downtime that you would otherwise really have nothing to do, and also use it to create relationships. So you have people you're following on Twitter. You probably recognize who's important. Use that downtime in the checkout aisle to retweet a message from somebody you want to have a relationship with. They'll see it, and that will improve your chances of making a connection with that person. But it really is just spend 15 minutes a day. Use the tools such as the browser buttons that enable you to share a link on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn right from the browser, right from the page you're looking at. Bitly has a great tool for that, and you can use the Hootsuite toolbar. You can use Delicious, any number of different sharing services. Just do a search in the relevant browser store, and you'll find lots of tools that will enable you to share content right from the page you're looking at. Use that stuff to make it very efficient so that sharing is really a 1 or 2 click process. Moving on, number 3, should I be on Facebook? Really good question for B2B companies. And, I would say that my answer 2 years ago is different than my answer today. 2 years ago, I mostly said to B2B companies, you shouldn't be on Facebook. It's not where your audience is. We're seeing more and more examples of B2B companies that are having great success on Facebook. One of them I particularly like is Constant Contact, which is the email service provider. Basically, all email service providers have good Facebook presences, and that's because their core constituency is small businesses. Small businesses are more likely to be using Facebook than big people in big corporations. So if that's a constituency you want to reach, Facebook is good. If you, for hiring, for recruiting, Facebook is excellent because the demographic of Facebook skews younger. If you want to reach young, recent college graduates, a lot of companies, including UPS, Cisco, FedEx, Deloitte & Touche, use Facebook for recruiting. Sodexo is another great example of that. So I would say that if you're trying to reach a younger audience and a small business audience, Facebook is a good place to be. If you're strictly an enterprise play, if you're going strictly for large businesses, probably not so good. But it's becoming a more and more attractive destination, I think, for B2B companies. Paul, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add there is that, Facebook has done a much better job recently, even in the last 6 to 9 months of allowing you to incorporate content that you are producing elsewhere in your B2B marketing plans, so that you can now kind of link back to a blog, and it'll take the snippet of the blog and it'll post it up to your page, and then you can kind of determine. The other thing that they've done is they've allowed you to do a lot more filtering in terms of who sees what when. So because of Facebook's kind of evolution, it has become a far more useful tool.
Yeah, and I'll add, by the way, IBM for Midsize Business is on Facebook, and it's gone from, in a year and a half, has gone from 1,000 likes to nearly 5,000 likes. And is getting some good pickup. We're seeing some very encouraging conversations, trends develop there in conversations. So even for a very, very B2B business, Facebook is increasingly a good place to be. LinkedIn would still be my first choice. Blog would still be my first choice. LinkedIn my second, but Facebook I'd say is a strong number 3. Next slide. How do I convince my boss that social media matters? Well, first of all, you have to determine that it does matter. And that's not the case for everyone. If your customers are not using social media, if you're quite convinced of that, if you have research to that effect, then it probably doesn't matter much to you. It's not for everyone. However, it increasingly is for almost anyone. First of all, show your boss if your company is being talked about, or your category is being talked about, or your competitors are being talked about, show your boss evidence of that. This at least demonstrates that you should be listening. If your customers are using social media, that should be compelling evidence that you need a presence there. How do you find that out? Well, a survey is a good way to do that. Just find out how people research product decisions and see what role social networks might play in that. If they play a role and your research turns that up, pretty compelling stuff to take to the boss. Finally, show them what your competitors are doing. If your competitors have a strong presence in social media, that doesn't necessarily mean you should, but you have to wonder if they're onto something. And often, if you believe that social is a place you should be, and if your competitors are strong there, then take that to your boss, and at least it's interesting information for that person to look at. Also, there's just so many case studies out there. So many great examples of how companies are using social media now. Not only the IBM for Midsize Business channel on YouTube is teeming with short case studies of what companies are doing in this area. I recommend Social Media B2B is a website it's strictly B2B examples, case studies. Marketing Profs is a very good source of B2B case studies as well. So look at some of these sites and pull some examples of companies in business similar to yours that you can show to demonstrate that there is value there. If you really believe that your company should be there and your boss doesn't agree. Those are just a few ideas. And finally, we're just about wrapping up the top of our hour here.
Okay. Can I just really jump in just very quickly? If you follow me on Twitter at all, you'll see that I just shared 15 minutes ago a video that talks about this from Hootsuite, called Social Media for the Enterprise. It talks about the justification for using social media, and I am putting it out right now in the chat window as well. So there's a link that you can kind of go to right after this session. Go ahead.
Great, Paul. Okay, last question, and then we're wrapping up. What's the value of Twitter lists? Well, first of all, what is a Twitter list? And not everybody knows that. Twitter introduced Twitter lists, I guess about 3 years ago. And it's a way for you to collect lists of people who you follow or who interest you. You don't even have to follow them. To collect lists of people on Twitter who you want to group for some reason. You might group them because you have a relationship with them, you work with them, or because they have a common title or a common interest area. And you can create many Twitter lists. The limit originally was 20. I think they've lifted that limit now, and I'm not sure what it is. But you can create Twitter lists by all kinds of criteria, any criteria you want. And the value of Twitter lists is that they are, you can follow a Twitter list. So if you're using a Hootsuite client, and if you've been to the boot camp, you know we're big fans of Hootsuite. Using your Hootsuite client, you can set up a column on Twitter that is a list column that follows somebody's list, and then you can track the people that they're following. You don't have to follow those people individually. And if you're concerned about your following count is too high on Twitter, you can get the same benefits of following someone without following them by following a list. It's similar to following a hashtag, really. So let's look at an example here. If we move ahead to the next slide. Now this is Eric Anderson at IBM. Has some great Twitter lists. This guy is really good, and he is sort of the unofficial Twitter archivist at IBM. He has a list of IBM-owned accounts that has 451 accounts in it, and has all the different IBM-branded accounts. He has several lists of IBMers. They top out at 500 people because that's the most names you can have on a Twitter list. If you want to follow people who work at IBM and who are on Twitter, you don't have to look for those people. Eric's already done it. You go to Eric Anderson's profile and look in his lists option on the left side of the screen, and it will show you all the lists he's assembled. And then you can see on the right, the image on the right is just a screen grab from a Hootsuite screen that shows one of Eric's lists. I've been following his official IBM list for a long time. It's an awesome list. And he does all the curation. He updates it. I just have to open it in a Hootsuite column, and I can follow all these different branded accounts at IBM. Real easy, and no heavy lifting on my part. Finally, Listorious, and let's move to the next to last slide. Listorious is a collection. That's a website that aggregates Twitter lists. So you can look for lists by different keywords. In this case, what you see on the right is a CIO list that is curated by someone named Airline IT Guru, and it has 304 CIOs in it. So do you want to find all the CIOs on Twitter? Well, this person has already done it, or certainly has put together a very impressive list. You can then just easily add that to your Twitter client, or follow it right on Listorious if you want. And you'll see the column on the left is when you go to the Listorious page, it will show, you can see the top lists by different keywords. So if you look for cloud computing, it will give you all of the cloud computing lists that it has, organized by most members or most followers to least followers. Now, Listorious is in some flux right now. It is being combined with another website. It has always struggled to make money, from what I understand, and I'm not sure if it's going to be around that much longer. I certainly hope it is, because it's a terrific resource, even if they have been struggling to find a good financial model. But even in that case, there are other. If you do searches on Twitter lists, there are other smaller aggregators of lists, and simply by searching on Twitter, you can find good lists that people have put together. With that, we are at the end of our hour. I'm going to ask. Finally, if there are any last questions, certainly don't mind staying past the top of the hour if we have questions.
We have no questions on the dashboard poll, and people can certainly email you or email me if you have any further questions. Right.
If you go to the final slide, you'll see all my contact information is there, and certainly you can reach me on Twitter and any other way. We and all the coaches at Profitecture are very happy to be resources to you. And this webinar will be archived and will be available shortly on our Vimeo channel, and you'll get an email to that effect. So with that, I'll say so long. Have a great afternoon, a great rest of the week, and if you're in the greater Northeast like I am, good luck surviving the snowstorm this weekend.